Continues its streak of record-breaking daily cases of COVID-19 as long-term care homes face overwhelming outbreaks.
We love them. They laid the path for us. Now it's our turn to carry forward with the torch and fight for them for quality of life.
Demands for more help outside this long-term care home in Toronto that's battling a COVID-19 outbreak.
His enthusiasm's gone down. My two younger ones, my middle child is like losing his mind. He cannot do at-home learning.
Parents and education experts voicing concerns over the province's extension of online learning. And loved ones of those who died on Ukraine Flight 752 a year ago gathered to give back, preparing and distributing meals to people in need.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Good evening, I'm Marivel Taruk. Ontario reported a new single-day record of nearly 4,000 infections today. 61 deaths were also among today's numbers. Hospitalizations continue to increase, and across the province, 400 people were in intensive care. Toronto reported a new single-day record today with 1,224 cases reported. Peel Region had 641 cases. There were 357 in York Region and 223 in Windsor, Essex County. 40% of Ontario's long-term care homes are currently dealing with a COVID-19 outbreak. More than 1,400 residents and 1,200 staff have the virus right now. Today, family members and advocates rallied outside a for-profit Toronto long-term care home that's been struggling to contain an outbreak that began in early December. Angelina King has more on their demands.
A small but fierce group rallied out front of St. George Community Care, which was home to the largest long-term care outbreak in the province last week.
Fighting for people to let them know we're here. We love them. They laid the path for us. Now it's our turn to carry forward with the torch and fight for them for quality of life.
Joined by the federal NDP leader who wants for-profit companies out of long-term care.
Profit is clearly resulting in horrible conditions for seniors. We can't allow that to continue.
His Green Party counterpart echoing the call. Her father was a resident here and died in the spring, not of COVID, but of neglect after an infection, she says.
He was loved. We really wanted, we could sense anyone who has someone in one of these homes, you know that they're not getting the care that they need, and it's not because of the staff.
During the latest outbreak, 70% of the home's residents contracted COVID-19. Right now, 29 of them have the virus, 17 have died, 14 were COVID positive at the time. When it comes to staff, 82 have tested positive, 28 currently have COVID. Sienna Living, which owns St. George, referred questions to University Health Network, which is temporarily managing the home. It says there have been no new positive cases for a week and that it's improved staffing, infection prevention and control, education on PPE, and more. But for many, the damage is already done.
I am so afraid for the people who live and work in long-term care.
The Ontario Health Coalition just released a report looking at outbreaks in healthcare settings. It found the number, size, and geographic area has increased drastically.
It's eye-popping. You know, you'll see homes where the outbreak will start on a Saturday, and by Wednesday, Thursday, there are 80 plus people infected. By the next week, it's 149.
The Ministry of Long-Term Care says in part, we have been taking action to address staff shortages, including issuing management orders, deploying hospital staff, and infection prevention and control teams. There is some hope for those at the home. So far, 30 residents and 55 staff have been vaccinated, but advocates say the rollout must be quicker, more coherent, and coordinated. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
I'm happy I'm going to get my vaccine today.
Vaccinations began at one of the city's hardest hit long-term care homes today. At least 73 residents have died of COVID-19 at Tender Care Living Centre in Scarborough. Vaccines went to residents, staff, and essential caregivers starting early this morning. Health officials on site say progress is being made to bring the outbreak under control. As for the rest of the province, vaccines are still months away. Premier Doug Ford released a message on Twitter today asking residents to continue following public health guidelines in the meantime.
We're going to see some real turbulent waters over the next couple months. We're doing everything in our power. The healthcare workers, the hospitals, the public health units are all doing everything they can to make sure we vaccinate as many people as possible. Mass vaccination won't happen till April, May, and June.
Tens of thousands of students across southern Ontario will begin another week of learning through their screens. The province extended online learning for elementary students until January 25th. The education minister said soaring rates of COVID-19 among young people drove the decision. But as Dahlia Ashry reports, parents and some education experts are calling for a different plan.
Joy Henderson is a mother of 3. She says remote learning hasn't been easy for her kids.
His enthusiasm's gone down. My 2 younger ones, my middle child is like losing his mind. He cannot do at-home learning, and my youngest will try and get away with as least amount of work as possible.
One education expert says the current online learning system puts a lot of emphasis on synchronous learning, where the teacher delivers a live lesson virtually.
There isn't flexibility for teachers to have students engage in learning materials offline and in a way that allows them to work in small groups or focus their attention on students who might need that live interaction the most.
The Ontario government's move to delay the return to in-class learning has put pressure on parents.
It's literally us kind of sitting on top of him, making sure that he does all the work.
Farhadi says a better system would allow for more asynchronous or independent learning, such as assignments, because synchronous learning has many challenges.
We're going to have disengagement. We're going to have absences in classrooms, and there's just very little that teachers are going to be able to do about it because they can't change the external circumstances that limit the ability of students to participate.
And in an announcement yesterday, Education Minister Stephen Lecce said the decision to continue remote learning didn't come easy.
So that was the rationale for why we acted, as difficult as the decision was, necessary to keep your family safe as we see rising transmission within our community.
Henderson's eldest child caught COVID late last year. So while she understands safety comes first, she says remote learning isn't working. She's fed up and urging the province to do something quickly.
Stephen Lecce has just said, we're building a plan now. And I'm like, just now? And so parents are frustrated, students are frustrated, and there just doesn't seem to be an end in sight with this ongoing school stoppage, going back to school stoppage again. So please figure out something.
Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
The province also announcing a $7.5 million investment to help educators better support children with autism spectrum disorder. The money will be used to offer online courses to teachers and educational assistants across Ontario, taught by the Geneva Centre for Autism. They're meant to help teachers better support students on the spectrum. The program will begin in 2021. As COVID-19 numbers continue to skyrocket, the province says it will enact new measures when it releases updated virus modeling this week. Some believe a curfew may be looming, but as Talia Ricci reports, not everyone thinks it's the right thing to do.
Bob Rodkin is a food courier in Oshawa, Ontario. He's not under a curfew yet, but if one is brought in, it could mean getting stopped by authorities while making late-night deliveries. Still,
if that's what's the government and the medical people that they're consulting with feel is necessary, then I'm fine with that.
And with Ontario's cases surging, a curfew is a possibility.
Everything's urgent.
Last week, the Premier said everything was on the table. Spain, Italy, Switzerland, and France have all implemented curfews. Researchers in France found it worked to slow the spread there. The strongest effect was for people 60 and older, but the data doesn't show why. Here at home, experts are split on whether a curfew is the right move for Ontario after 2 weeks of a full provincial lockdown.
So really, the next step in all of this is that if you want the cases to go down, you actually have to do something more.
The social gatherings around Christmas clearly were an impact to the hospitalizations. But Christmas is over. Like, this is not the solution. Like, we need paid leave. We need rapid testing.
Workers' advocates agree, saying paid sick leave for essential workers should be the priority, not a curfew.
We know that it's racialized, low-wage workers and mainly women of color who are doing this work. And the last thing they need is to be harassed by the cops on their way to or from work as to why they're on a bus.
Which raises another curfew consideration, mental health.
My main concern is the rise in psychological distress, anxiety, depression, substance abuse, and domestic violence.
Even before today's new record high number of cases, Ontario health officials were calling the situation scary. New modeling will be presented on Tuesday. No word on when new restrictions may show up. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
You are looking live at our country's capital tonight. Just north of there in Gatineau, a curfew is already in place. Residents of Quebec cannot be outside in public between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. Police in Gatineau handed out 21 tickets last night for contravening the rules. The curfew will remain in effect until at least February 8th. All right, Christina's here now with a look at the weather. It was a lovely weekend, a little chillier out there today, though.
Absolutely, Maryville, you are right. It is going to get chillier, but get this, we still have not reached that minus 10 degrees Celsius mark for Toronto. So you mentioned our beautiful capital. Monday afternoon, Ottawa is going to be seeing some flurries. We're going to get into those details in just a moment. But first, what does our overnight look like for the Greater Toronto Area? Well, it's all about those clear skies. We're looking at milder days and cooler nights. You're seeing these flurries for Hamilton around the 6 a.m. mark. So for those of you who are still commuting in Hamilton, you're going to wake up to some flurries, but Toronto, Monday morning, minus 2 degrees, feeling like minus 4. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this snowfall. We're going to see a very weak trough. Here it comes around pre-dawn Monday morning hours into your Tuesday. And what it's going to do is it's going to bring us some light flurries, really to the traditional snow belts. And then as we push north, Toronto, you are not included in this. And even as we push to Barrie, we are clear. But once we head into Parry Sound and Sudbury and Sault Ste. Marie, also including Kincardine in this, and then pushing towards eastern Ontario, so into Kingston, into the nation's capital. Well, it looks like we're dealing with a little bit of snowfall, not a lot of accumulation at all, but we are going to be dealing with a little bit of that. Our zonal pattern, as I mentioned, we're looking at milder days, cooler nights, and when we come back for that long range forecast, I've got all your details for you.
Okay, so we'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks, Christina. We've got some breaking news for you now. 2 people are dead after a collision in Milton tonight. Ontario Provincial Police say a tractor-trailer and an SUV collided just after 9 p.m. It happened in the eastbound lanes of Highway 401 and Twist Road. Police say road closures are in effect. And a woman in her 20s is dead, and a man was injured after a vehicle crashed in Mississauga overnight.
What we know is the vehicle was traveling eastbound on Aaron Center Boulevard and left the roadway for an unknown reason and struck a light standard, causing the extensive damage and the unfortunate fatal injuries.
Peel police say the crash happened in the area of Aaron Center Boulevard and Glen Aaron Drive. Emergency crews were called to the scene shortly before 9 p.m. The woman died at the scene. The man, a passenger, suffered non-life-threatening injuries. He was taken to a local hospital. Well, it's been exactly 5 years since the failure of Ontario's Nipigon Bridge, severing access between eastern and western Canada. The bridge was the only connection point between both sides on the Trans-Canada Highway. But in January 2016, improperly tightened bolts snapped, causing the decking to lift. Engineering reports found a combination of design and installation deficiencies caused the failure. The bridge reopened about a month and a half later, but all lanes weren't fully repaired until late 2018. It's been just over 1 year since the crash of Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752. 176 people died on board, including 55 Canadians and many others with strong ties here. To mark the anniversary, 4 GTA families decided they wanted to give back. They sponsored and helped cook 500 meals for those in need in Regent Park today.
Chopping some vegetables for the salad, putting the chickens in the oven. More than ever, there is a need for helping others, especially with this event of COVID, with so many people who've lost their jobs. And you know, my sister was so involved with charities, and she was an advocate of helping those who were in need. Her name is Sahar Haju. She had dedicated her life to helping especially women, newcomers to Canada who were in financial need. Just to honor her and continue her legacy, and her daughter Elsa Jadidi, we want to continue and do this and give back to our fellow community of Canadians who have been so supportive.
We're making peri-peri chicken, rice, salad, vegetable. 90% of the world problem could be resolved by breaking bread together and getting to know each other. And then we see action like this happening and gesture like this happening. When they should be the most impacted in their saddest time of today's anniversary, they're actually here to give back to the community. You know, you can see how this beautiful country brings people together, and we all work together to help others.
Continue to pursue the exercise of options with vaccine companies that have been approved.
Ottawa says it's still on track to have Canadians vaccinated by September. More on the government's plan next. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Democrats will vote tomorrow to urge Donald Trump's removal from office under the 25th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. She says if that bid fails, they will proceed with impeachment. It comes with a second Republican senator saying Trump should step down after Wednesday's storming of the Capitol. For removal under the 25th Amendment, Vice President Mike Pence must declare Trump unable to discharge his duties. Pence reportedly opposes the idea. Searchers have located the two flight recorders from yesterday's passenger jet crash in Indonesia. They are among debris that's been found at a depth of 23 meters in the Java Sea. The plane plunged into the water about 4 minutes after takeoff. The engine was among the pieces brought to the surface, along with twisted metal, at least one cockpit instrument, and human remains. 62 people were on board. CBC News has learned Canada gave up its option to acquire 16 million more doses of the Moderna vaccine. But the minister in charge insists Canada will reach its September target for inoculating everyone who wants to get vaccinated. Ashley Burke has more on today's revelations.
Exactly 4 weeks ago, the first doses arrived. Since then, while 500,000 have been delivered to Canada, just over half of those have made their way into arms, according to third-party trackers. But some provinces say they're not getting it fast enough.
All of Ontario will be out of Pfizer vaccines by the end of next week. My friends, we're all hopeful the federal government will get us more vaccines.
Every day that somebody is not inoculated is a risk, particularly in the high priority groups. It can even be a risk to their lives.
Even so, Ontario and Alberta have been criticized for sluggish rollouts.
There is a real ramp up happening right now.
Today, the minister in charge of buying vaccines told Rosemary Barton Live she doesn't need to approve other vaccine candidates to inoculate everyone by the target date.
If all we end up with is Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna, do we have enough to get this done by September?
We will have enough. We will.
Okay, good.
And we will be on track, without doubt, to ensure inoculations for all Canadians who want it by the end of September, if not sooner, right? That is the goal that I'm pursuing every single day, moving up that end of September timeline so that we can see ourselves through to the other side of this pandemic as quickly as possible.
Canada has access to 60 million doses of the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines, enough to vaccinate 30 million people. Tonight, the minister's office said Canada allowed its option for another 16 million doses of Moderna to expire, but is still in talks with Pfizer for more doses, which are more difficult to ship. Canada also has access to other vaccines if they're approved. Another sign the rollout is ramping up, the federal government has now awarded a $16 million contract to accounting firm Deloitte to improve how it manages and tracks the vaccines and who's getting them. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
After a record-breaking win over the Sacramento Kings on Friday night, the Toronto Raptors were back in action tonight to take on the Golden State Warriors.
I don't think our record really indicates how well we've played. Played really well in some games that we unfortunately came out on the wrong end of. Again, those little tweaks here and there, you know, you add up a couple a game and your team starts getting over the hump.
It's not quite the rematch of the NBA Finals in 2019, but the Raptors were still looking to pick up a win in the Bay Area against Steph Curry. Unfortunately, the nail-biter ended in a loss. The final score, 106-105. Sun's not yet shining on our Raptors quite yet, Christina, but it was on the rest of us in the city this weekend.
I know. I was like, when I was watching that last sports hit, I was like, go Raptors, go, because I missed that ending. Wow, I can't believe that.
I'm glad we did, though. They lost.
Absolutely. So basically, Maribel, we're still going to be trending on the seasonably mild side, but not a lot of sunshine for this week ahead. Thought I'd show you this Toronto almanac. The coldest it's been, 1945, minus 26.7, nowhere close to where we are. Once again, trending on the mild side. We were above freezing today. And for our Monday afternoon, Toronto, 3 degrees. Here's your cloud cover as we push into Barrie. Now, we talked about this snowfall. It's really about those light flurries. Georgian Bay is going to see the brunt of this, but once again, not a lot of accumulation as we head into Eastern Ontario. Kingston, nation's capital, we're also going to be dealing with this. We also talked about those more mild days and cooler nights. So our Monday overnight, Toronto, minus 3 degrees. Here's your cloud cover. Heading down to Hamilton once again, minus 4 degrees. We are seeing these flurries as we head into Huntsville as well as Sudbury. So we talked about sunlight. Hopefully everybody got their vitamin D this weekend, because for the week ahead, we're not looking at many hours of sunlight. Wednesday is the day to get out there, bring those sunglasses. We've got 3 hours, the best we'll see for the new week. So Toronto, your Monday, here's your cloud cover. Once again, we are not going to see those flurries. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, it's really about that mixture of sun and cloud. Friday, it looks like we could be dealing with that wintry mix, but we are not going to see that cold Arctic air start to penetrate southern Ontario until the last 10 days of January, when that ridge really starts to break down. So we're still seasonably mild until we meet again next weekend.
Okay, and that's when we'll see you. Thanks, Christina.
Okay, thanks, Maribel.
Good night. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great night as well.